Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Culture Shock Podcast, where we talk about all things that shocked the culture forever and changed pop culture as we know it. Today, we're going to be talking about the idea of the teen idol pop star. So, let's get started. First things first, where did it start? So, this idea of the teen idol pop star has been around for a long time. It dates back to the 1950s, shortly after the term teenager was coined. Teenagers weren't a demographic for a very long time, not until after World War II, where younger people started to kind of speak up more and kind of framed a more identity of what it meant to be a young adult. It, of course, came from the idea of numbers. There's 13, 14, 15. So they just took this demographic and said, hey, they have teen in their name, we can name it that. And teenagers became a really big demographic for media. Still to this day, a lot of media is based around high school, a lot of things that are relatable to teenagers because of the hold that they have on this media. So a lot of companies said, hey, why don't we find a person that can match what these people are viewing, feeling, and seeing, and almost make a copy of them in the limelight. And this idea really starts to get solidified with the teen idol rock star in the 1950s. People like Elvis Presley really solidified what it meant to be a teen idol. It almost became a thing where you wanted to be this person. And that becomes into idol culture no matter what. It is becoming the ideal version of it. So it's this idea of being what you want to see, what you want to act like, what you want to be in the future, and almost becoming a role model for these younger teenagers that have nothing to look up to. They look up to these teen idols. And that gets really big later. We'll come back to that idea of being a role model for the younger crowd. But really in the 50s with these white rock and roll stars, when rock and roll started to become more of a white environment, was really when teen idols really emerged in the pop culture. But this original idea of a teen idol was almost something that adults were afraid of because these original people's image was not what was the idea. They were racy, they had darker undertones behind it. It was something more of a bad boy, bad girl image. There was not really a boy next door, a good boy that you want your daughter to go to prom with. That idea does not emerge yet. Through this 50s, 60s, and 70s, it's very rock and roll focused. It's very hardcore, very rebellion, something that teenagers still look up to, but in a connotation that adults were scared behind. And as time went on, it became where teen idols were starting to decline. Around the 70s and early 80s, this idea of the teen idol kind of declined when things like arena rock, glam rock, disco started to get really big. There was not a lot of teenagers making that music. It was very of older people making music for young people. People like Twisted Sister, even though were making music for teenagers, they were not teenagers themselves. They were adults trying to market towards teenagers. So this teen pop idol audience kind of starts to go away until the late 80s, where they have a huge resurgence. Which leads to bands like the Backstreet Boys and New Kids on the Block, which completely changed the idea of what it means to be a teen idol. These boy groups and girl groups were not racy. They were not controversial. They were marketed as something that teenagers can listen to in a safe environment. Where in the 50s and 60s, it was something that was almost a parent scare and almost was trying to get banned. People like Elvis were not allowed on TV for a while. These people like New Kids on the Block and the Backstreet Boys, let's even throw Spice Girls into this mix, really did shape what it means to be teen idol, teen pop specifically. This was around the rise of pop music. Pop music for a while was not the main stage. This was where it was becoming the main stage. Rock was leaving. Pop was coming in. And these groups, especially teen idol groups, really changed what it meant for pop music and to be a pop star. But where it takes the world by storm and shocks pop culture forever is when the Disney Channel gets involved. The Disney Channel started to get its rise around the same time that Teen Idols did, around the 80s. It kind of profited off of the same idea that the Idols did, where it was all like, okay, if kids and teenagers are going to watch our shows, we need to put kids and teenagers on the screen. And this spawned the second revival of the Mickey Mouse Club. If you don't know what the Mickey Mouse Club was, It was this show that was kind of a breeding ground for the next generation of stars. They took a lot of young teenagers and put them on a show where they were able to showcase their talents, their acting abilities, and singing were the ones that were put to the forefront. So it was the perfect thing for a teen idol. It was teaching them how to be celebrities, comedic timing, which is really important for this idea that you want to be as much relatable to a teenager. But what they really focused on was vocal coaching and vocal performance. And this wave of 90s Mickey Mouse Club spawned the biggest pop stars in the world, but especially the biggest teen idols that were ever made. And Disney got super lucky with these group of kids because these kids were ambitious and most hungry to perfect their craft. And that shows to be a trend with young teen idols, especially that go the Disney route. They really want to be successful in the future. That's why they joined Disney in the first place. And this group from the Mickey Mouse Club, still to this day, are considered some of the biggest people in the music industry. They spawned boy banders for the popular boy group NSYNC. But it was especially their two main members, JC Savaz and Justin Timberlake, were both features on the show. They were some of the main stars of the show. And some of the background actresses also became to be the biggest pop stars that were ever made, including Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, which is unheard of that they all came from the same show. But that just shows the power of the training that Disney gave to these teen idols. They were really preparing them to be a star and how to really push their fame. But this spawned the first problems that came with being a teen idol. When you're labeled a teen idol, especially for this young of an artist that some of these artists were labeled as, you kind of get stuck in this one loop. You get stuck that you're only making music for young teen idols. You're making music for young teen children, and your demographic really tops out around 15, which tends to be a problem when you want to mature as an artist. Which tends to have these stars want to do crazy, outlandish things, almost have a public breakdown to try to break away from that image. We saw that a lot with Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera especially, because they were labeled as the girl next door image, which is fine when you're 16 making music, but when you want to mature to be as an adult, you got to do something radical to make it do it. But they were able to move successfully. They took the route where they just adult up to their image. Their music became a little bit more racy. It became a little bit more not appropriate for children. So they kind of masked it. They did it smart. These next group of teen artists weren't so lucky. The previous artists in the late 90s and early 2000s, they got their start on Disney Channel. And that's all that it was. Their start was on Disney Channel. And then they moved with their Disney Channel image to another platform. In the 2010s, was the rise of the Disney teen idol, which is completely different than getting your start on Disney and moving over to a different record label. These people were Disney stars. They were not on the Mickey Mouse Club. They were on the Disney Channel. They were Disney Channel stars. So the Disney Channel, once it was moving away from having the Mickey Mouse Club and that's what the kids were on, were like, let's give these kids a TV show. Let's give these kids each their own TV show and profit off of their talent and really showcase what these kids can do throughout their own show. Which their earlier shows were highly successful. Shows like That's So Raven, Cory in the House, things like that were successful. But where this idea of becoming the teen idol really strikes to be on Disney Channel is when they struck gold with Miley Cyrus on the show Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana was built around making Miley Cyrus a teen idol. Where shows like That's So Raven and Cory in the House were just TV shows that kids were on, Hannah Montana was designed to make a teen pop star. That's what the show was about. It was about Miley Stewart, who was Miley Cyrus, playing a character named Hannah Montana on stage where in life she was living a normal life. It was the perfect formula for kids and early teenagers. It was, okay, someone who could be like me, who could also be a pop star. And the audition process was really like that. They were looking for a star who was relatable, who could sing, that was relatable to kids, but also have the look that she's a normal teenager. Which is the definition of a pop idol. But what set Hannah Montana apart from different shows was how popular Hannah Montana was. Like, this was my first time really feeling culture shock because I can remember going into school and everyone's backpacks were Hannah Montana. Going to my friend's house and her room was Hannah Montana. My sister had Hannah Montana merch. It was everywhere. Hannah Montana was the blueprint. And with the success of Hannah Montana, Disney pushed to have more music on their programming. Like, in the commercials for Disney Channel, they almost had MTV style moments. So while a commercial break was going on, it would show a Miley Cyrus music video. And then slowly they would add more stars in there to profit off of the fame of Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus. And now they're making movies that are about music, which sparks another pop star like Demi Lovato. And then they're making another TV show where music is heavily inspired. Then you get Selena Gomez. Like, they were on a roll back to back to back. I can remember it was Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, the Jonas Brothers, and Demi Lovato all kind of coming together to become the next generation of pop stars. And that was the good thing about being on the Disney Channel, is you could also be on each other's TV shows. They all had TV shows and movies that they made guest appearances on, and of course they would sing together. So all these new brands of pop stars are taking over the world. Every single child, every single teenager at this time had a favorite pop star that was on the Disney Channel. But that's what they were. They were pop stars on the Disney Channel. There gets to a point where you're no longer the audience of the Disney Channel. And what do? You have nothing else. You're a Disney Channel star. And you know how we talked about earlier about being a role model? Well, when you build your entire career about being a role model to young kids, that's all that people know you as. So to break out into the adult market almost seems impossible. So they had to take drastic measures to become adult artists. And yes, Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, yes, people like going as far as back as Elvis, had to do things to be seen as adults, but people like Miley Cyrus had to go above and beyond. Miley Cyrus tried. She tried a little bit with her song Can't Be Tamed. There's lyrics in it be like, you can't own me, I can't be tamed. But people weren't taking that seriously. They were like, okay, it's a Disney star trying to break out of her image. Whoop-de-doo, we've seen that before. And when you're known as Hannah Montana, that's going to follow you for life. So she knew she had to do what she had to do. And it came to this album called Bangers, which I think is one of the most shocking culture shock things that have ever happened. In these music videos, it talked about doing lines in the bathroom. It showed her naked on wrecking balls. And people, especially parents, were furious. They were like, what happened to the teen idol? We're not going to let our children listen to this. But kids did it anyway. And it kind of pushed once again to a new level of what a teen idol was in a negative way. I don't want to be a role model anymore. And she has the right to say that. She has the right to be like, I'm an adult woman. I can be an adult woman. And many of the other teen idols of the 2010s on the Disney Channel struggled with this same thing. Demi Lovato has been very open about when Sunny with a Chance and Camp Rock ended, she thought she had nowhere else to go. Her addictions almost brought her to death. She became a drug user. She thought that she had nowhere else to go. Luckily, she was able to save her career and did become a global superstar. But it just continues this cycle of, okay, I have to be the teen idol that I was labeled on as the Disney Channel, and I can't be the person that I want to be. And this gets to the point where teen idols, to this day, are still struggling with the same thing. When I think of modern teen artists like Olivia Rodrigo and Billie Eilish, people get so mad when they want to grow up and be adults. Like Olivia Rodrigo just released her album, Guts, and it has very adult themes on it. People were very unhappy. Sabrina Carpenter hasn't been on the Disney Channel since she was 13. She's 25 now. And people are still boycotting her concerts. People are not letting their kids be listening to her music, which they shouldn't. It's not for kids anymore. It is for adults. And they are stuck in this teen Disney Channel image. Olivia Rodrigo, Billie Eilish, Sabrina Carpenter, they're grown now. They do not have to babysit your kids. They do not have to be the teen idols that they were promised. And that is sticking with all these different people. And really gets me wondering, what is the future of teen idols? Especially under the lens of Disney Channel. Will this continue to be a thing? I want to know. Because with these stories of all these teen idols growing up and struggling to become adults, I think a lot less people are interested. What started as something great, with teen idols being a vehicle for people to be famous in the future, now is becoming something negative. So this is the end of the episode. Sorry it ended so negative. That's very different from what I do. But I'm coming out here at the end to talk about some few announcements. I now have an Instagram, which is _Culture Shock podcast. So make sure if you're enjoying what's going on over there, go ahead and follow. I post different things about episodes. I sometimes do polls about future topics for episodes, get y'all involved a little bit. Also subscribe here on YouTube if you're enjoying it. And come back next week where we talk about all things that shook the culture forever on the Culture Shock podcast.